What's up, guys? Today I wanted to revisit the Galaxy S20 Ultra. I've been getting a lot of requests about this phone in particular, and I did the comparison to the Note 20 Ultra if you guys want to check that out, but a lot of people have been asking me that question. Honestly, if you don't care about the stylus, this phone is actually cheaper than the Note 20 Ultra. It's a pretty good alternative. It's a little bit cheaper, not a whole bunch, but it's $264 for a good version, certified refurbished, and then on the Note 20 Ultra you can see it's $329 for also a good version. And yeah, it's just going to be cheaper overall. So even if you live from overseas and you're trying to get one cheap and get it imported or something like that, so far this phone has aged really well. I think my favorite thing about these older Galaxy S phones is that the actual screen on here. So I think the last screen that we saw with this sort of design was the S21 Ultra. And this is a screen that is just very easy to hold. I think it's much easier to hold than the more boxier Note phones, or even the S23 Ultra that uses the basically same boxy design. These are just way easier to hold, and these screens are gigantic. This is a 6.9 inch display. It's full 1440p. It's dynamic AMOLED. It's 120 hertz as well too, and it's overall a really beautiful panel. So nothing has really aged about the panel. Now, with these older Samsung phones, you got to remember that you can only do the 120 hertz at 1080p, which is not a big deal because it still looks really good at this 1080p resolution, and I would just switch it there. But honestly, even if we go to settings here and I turn it to 1440p, like, yeah, I don't think you really notice too much of a difference, honestly. I think you kind of only notice the difference if you're watching like 2K content on YouTube or something like that. Then you'll notice some slight detail difference. But just like this, at this distance, it's not really a big deal. It's also a curved display as well too, which it looks like Samsung is slightly getting away from what we are seeing with the rumors with the S24 Ultra. But yeah, so this phone does pretty good job outdoors still. It gets up to 1400 nits peak brightness. So even if you're in direct sunlight, you can still pretty much see this phone no problem. And like I said, you have a really high PPI on this phone at 511. So everything looks super sharp as far as icons and text on the display. So overall, I think the display has aged really well in my opinion. If I was to nitpick about anything with this phone, I think this is Samsung's probably one of their most boring designs, the S20 series in general. This is just kind of boring to me. I'm not really sure. They just went with a really plain look, very plain colors with this release. The camera module design looks okay. Phones like the Galaxy, like the Note 10 Plus and the S10 Plus, I thought had better designs. I think this was Samsung sort of fine-tuning, stuff on how they were going to do this big camera cutout. I think they got it, perfect with the S21 Ultra. But I think that was only my only like one nitpick with this phone is that, the design is okay. What do you guys think? Because a lot of you guys say, oh, the phone's ugly, or I like the phone. It could be this gray color. I'm not really sure, but overall the design itself is just kind of okay. It's aged fine, but this phone has a really comfortable feel to it. Like I said, that's my biggest thing. With a phone this size being at 6.9 inches, it is super comfortable with these smooth edges on here, and I absolutely love it. It's IP68 dust and water resistant. Of course, you got aluminum frame, glass back on here, and overall just a really nice phone. And no, the camera module, it's not, or the camera here, it's not big enough to where you have that weird kind of weight difference. It just feels pretty balanced. So yeah, so absolutely, the design is okay, but as far as like holding it in the hand, it's a fantastic phone to hold and feel. Now, this is something I tell anybody who is a gamer on a budget. This phone has the Snapdragon 865 chip on it. You also have micro SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 12 gigs of RAM. It's an absolute beast when it comes to gaming. You're able to play PUBG 90 frames. You can play HDR Extreme on here as well too. It is a really good phone when it comes to gaming. And what I like about this older chip is that it doesn't get as hot as something like the Snapdragon 888 processor, which it just wasn't Samsung phones. It was a lot of phones where I just didn't like how hot those phones were getting. But yeah, so this phone is an absolute beast. Like I said, for anybody who's trying to game on their phone competitively, and you want it to be under $300, this is an excellent choice. Big, beautiful screen. You can play PUBG at 90 frames. You can pretty much play anything at high settings on this phone. It is really impressive, and you won't have any type of heating problems. And again, remember, there are 2 versions. Unfortunately, I've never tried the Exynos version, so you guys overseas can let me know how that is. But if you are able to get the Snapdragon version, I would definitely get it, because it's just going to be more efficient overall when it comes to the gaming performance and the battery life as well too. And that's in my opinion. I have not tried it yet, but just from what I've seen, Exynos chips seem to be a little bit inferior to Snapdragon chips overall. But like I said, gaming performance on here, you can see super smooth. So you're gonna get a really good experience for a pretty cheap price. All right, so you're not really missing out on software as far as features go, even compared to the newest phones, at least for now. This phone got its latest update was Android 13 One UI 5.1, and then it's currently getting security patches. But as far as like the actual features, you're not missing out on anything. You still have Samsung desktop support, Dolby Atmos, basically everything you would find, and you can still use Good Lock, reverse wireless, power share, all that good stuff. So you're not really missing out on anything when it comes to the software side. So that's really good. And also this phone has pretty good speakers, so let's go ahead and check those out. So pretty good speakers on here, pretty good amount of bass. Even if you cover the bottom speaker, the top speaker still gives you a good amount of sound to it. You also have the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor on here, so it's still blazing fast. And then you also can take advantage of face unlock on here, which again works really well too. Now the most exciting thing with the S20 Ultra when it first came out was that it had the ability to do the 100 times zoom. This was, Samsung's phone that they put it in first. And it's pretty good still in 2023, basically going almost into 2024. It still takes some pretty good shots. Samsung has actually improved the zoom dramatically over the years if you compare it to the S23. So that's really exciting to see them come that far. But this phone still takes pretty good shots. It's got a 108 megapixel standard, a 48 megapixel telephoto, has 4 times optical zoom, and then a 10 times hybrid zoom, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 0.3 depth sensor. It can still shoot in 8K 24, which is nice, and then a 40 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. I compared this phone to the S23 Ultra, and yes, Samsung has made pretty good improvements with their cameras, but guys, I was pretty impressed overall with the cameras on here, guys. You still get pretty nice vibrant shots. Like I said, if you shoot in the 108 megapixel mode, you crop into photos, you still get a good amount of detail. The ultra wide is pretty consistent with the main lens. You're able to still get those really cool moon shots as well too. I was very impressed. The only thing that I thought aged kind of not as well was the selfie cam. I thought the selfie cam, if you're indoors, it gets a little bit soft, and it definitely lightens the skin more than the newer Samsung phones. But overall, I was pretty impressed. Video was pretty solid. Like I said, the zoom was pretty good still on here. This phone, when it came out, had problems with like autofocusing and stuff like that, but I think a lot of that's been kind of ironed out with software updates. But overall, for $300, I still think it takes just as good shots as like a $300 mid-ranger or anything in that like $300 price range. If I put it against the A54, it would take just as good photos, if not better. So yeah, so I really like the camera still. Now this was a used phone that I got, so I never had bad battery life with this phone. It has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. The battery life isn't anything like super impressive. What a lot of people don't know is that Samsung really didn't make any type of battery improvements to the S23 Ultra. That's when we saw actual dramatic improvement. But I did like drain tests with the S20, the S21, the S22, and they all kind of got around the same screen on time. So that's why I said the S23, it is, if you're looking for like a Samsung flagship with good battery life, that's the phone you would actually get. It doesn't matter if you get the Note 20, the 21, the 22. They all kind of have just okay battery life, around that 6 hours screen on time. The S23 is where you see the actual battery improvement. But this phone still has pretty good specs for the battery. It has a 45 watt charger, so it does charge up pretty fast. You're able to get that super fast charging on this phone. And like I said, you have the wireless and reverse wireless charging as well too. Overall, this is a fantastic phone still, guys. As long as it's getting security patches, it's still going to be a fantastic pickup for anybody trying to game, anybody who wants to take some pretty nice photos on a budget. Honestly, I would buy this over the A54 any day. Be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.